Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. I'm PJ.
And I'm Mike.
Today we're going to be reviewing Marvel's biggest, newest hit, maybe the biggest hit of this current phase, maybe the biggest hit since Endgame came out. Thunderbolts Asterisk is the movie we're going to be talking about today. And then after we talk about that, Mr. Mike is going to talk about some Westerns and relate some of those Westerns, I think, to this comic book movie. So we'll see what Mike has to say about that.
So, PJ,
yeah,
this Thunderbolts is a sequel to technically Black Widow. Is that correct?
It is. It's a half sequel to Black Widow and maybe a quarter of a sequel to Cap 4 Brave New World. It touches on a little bit of stuff that happened in both of those movies. I thought, because Thunderbolts is not the most well-known property for Marvel Comics, I would just quickly go over the history of what the Thunderbolts are, and then in the comics, and then we'll go right into the movie. So the first appearance of the Thunderbolts was actually published in 1997.
Wow.
It's not like this is the oldest. You know, a lot of characters exist from like the 50s and 60s or earlier. This team only came about in 1997, the late 90s, and their first appearance was in Incredible Hulk number 449. And what the Thunderbolts was a team of villains put together by Baron Zemo. When the Avengers and Fantastic Four were presumed dead, Zemo puts together a team of villains from the Masters of Evil. They call themselves the Thunderbolts, and they kind of masquerade as superheroes instead of villains.
I see.
And the original team consisted of nobody from this movie. The original team was Baron Zemo, who is in Marvel movies. We've seen him in a number of different movies. Winter Soldier is his biggest one. Goliath, Beetle, Moonstone, Screaming Mimi, and Mixer. So none of these people show up in the movie at all. So right off the bat, we're starting off differently than the way the comics were built. And some other notable members in the comic books are actually Hawkeye, Bullseye, Taskmaster, who is in the movie, and Dr. Octopus is another person, and he's been in it. There's also been times where the name the Thunderbolts has been given to superheroes, usually in times of like the villains are winning and they're taking over, and then the heroes have to operate in the shadows and things like that. They'll take on the name the Thunderbolts because they're working underground. They can't be the Avengers. And when things like that happen, we've actually seen Luke Cage, Ant-Man, the Punisher, Venom, Winter Soldier, Shang-Chi. They've all been Thunderbolts in the comic book. So there's been a big roster of characters who have been on this team. The people in the movie, and we'll talk about them, have been on the team in various incarnations in the comic book. That's just a little history of who the Thunderbolts are.
PJ.
I just thought this is not the most popular hero team of all time.
Would this be the equivalent of like the Guardians of the Galaxy, that kind of level of...
Yeah,
I mean, they're huge, but I mean, before all this,
before that, maybe a slightly bigger than that, but not much. But yeah, it's sort of the same thing where it's a team that a person who isn't really into comic books probably never heard the name, the same way they've never heard the name Guardians. Absolutely. So that brings us to the movie, which was directed by Jake Schreier. I think I'm saying his name right.
Yes, I believe so.
And we were just talking a little bit about him prior to us starting to record. Dude's done a lot of music videos.
Yep,
hasn't done much else.
Yeah, he's done, in terms of music videos, he's done Kanye West, Selena Gomez, Chance the Rapper, Juice WRLD, Calvin Harris. So those are pretty notable artists.
Big names, yeah.
Yeah, and I think before this film, I saw his IMDb. It looks like he did two others. I don't know if I guess they would be independent. I'm not sure, the studio films, but so this is his Mama Jammer.
This is his big breakout.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do a quick synopsis of the movie, and then I'll give you my opinion on it. Did you see it yet or no?
No. But I've heard it's actually it's well done. So I'm
it's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, quick synopsis. I'm not going to go through all the actors because all of these actors have shown up in other Marvel movies, so they're not like these are new people.
Yep.
Except for one guy. So, CIA director Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who we all know as Elaine Bennis from Seinfeld, she's about to get ousted from her position of CIA director. So, and this is because of her involvement in the Sentry Project. So the courts, the government, they want to kick her out of her role, and she's trying to keep her job. So in order to keep her job, she has to cover her tracks for the Sentry Project. So throughout the course of some of the Marvel TV shows and movies, she's been collecting agents, right? And so now the agents that she's collected over the course of these movies, she's dispatching to cover her tracks to make it so she doesn't lose her job as the CIA director. We get to a point where the only tracks left to cover are these agents. So she sends them all into a trap to get them all to kill each other. So there's no way for anyone to tie anything back to her. And those agents are Yelena Belova, who is Scarlett Johansson's character, Natasha Romanoff's sister.
Oh, okay.
Ghost, who was the villain in the Ant-Man movie. She like walks through walls and shit.
Oh, yeah.
You can't touch her. Like she disappears. She kind of teleports, that kind of stuff. Taskmaster, who was in the Black Widow movie, and John Walker, the U.S. agent, who we met in the Captain America TV show, the Captain America Winter Soldier TV show.
Oh, all right.
Yep. So those are your team members. Spoiler alert, real quick: Taskmaster doesn't last long. She's immediately killed, and just a throwaway scene. Rumor is the director didn't even know that those scenes that they filmed later on might get cut, and there might be more scenes with her. That was the rumor. I don't know how true it is, but very quickly she's dispatched and never heard of again.
The reason why I said no, because like I think they were like a big villain, I think, in the last film, somewhat, and
yeah,
I just said, and everyone was like all hyped up about him. I'm surprised they got smoked so early.
Yeah, well, the problem is they really did a disservice to the character, and the people who like the character from the comics, like, this is so different. It's almost why use the name. And I think they got a lot of backlash from people just not liking the choices they made with the change. And so they just got rid of the character. That's what I think happened. There's no great loss.
Right. So it doesn't really impact the movie. It just.
No, it doesn't impact the movie. It's like a head scratcher of a scene. You're like, really? This is what we did? But,
right.
It doesn't impact the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
So they figure out that they were sent to a trap, and now they have to work together to escape. And while they're escaping, they meet Bob. And Bob has no memory of who he is, why he's there, but he seems to have a dark past. That's all we know at this point. Throughout the course of the movie, we learn that Bob is a test subject in the Sentinel Project, and we thought he died, but he survived. So everyone thinks Bob is dead. Bob very much not dead. So that's kind of the setup for the rest of the movie.
Okay.
What happens next? Let me tell you. So during the escape, Bob is captured by Valentina, and everyone else gets rescued by the Red Guardian, who is Yelena's dad. This is why when you say like it's very much a sequel to Black Widow, it's because everything is revolving around Yelena and Red Guardian.
Right. I get that.
Yeah, so Red Guardian, Yelena's dad, saves them. He comes to rescue them. There's a reason why he's there. It's not important for me to say right now, so I'm just going to blow right past it. Then eventually Bucky has to get involved because he realizes, as we learned in the last movie, this is where it kind of ties back into Cap 4. He's a congressman now. So now as a congressman, he realizes this team of Yelena's agents can testify against Valentina and get her out of the CIA. So now he has to get involved to get them back to the, Washington or whatever, so that they can go against her. And at this point, Red Guardian decides this is now a team. And he gives them the name the Thunderbolts. Now, would you like to know why they're the Thunderbolts? Because it's dumb as fuck.
I feel like
it's bad.
It's going to be like I keep thinking, every time I hear Thunderbolt, I keep thinking Thunderbirds Are Go. So has it anything to do with that TV show, maybe?
No,
he was a fan
we learn is that Yelena, when she was a child, she was on a soccer team.
Oh.
And the soccer team was the Thunderbolts. And that was the last time she was happy. So her father wants to call this the Thunderbolts team because he knows she likes being part of a team.
They couldn't think of anything else.
I know. It's
or just not even bother. Just have it just be like codename Thunderbolt. Like that's the plane they fly around in, and that's what it's called.
I thought they were going to tie it into the last movie because Thunderbolt Ross becomes the Red Hulk.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought maybe it was. And he said in the last movie he was trying to put the Avengers back together. Yeah. So I thought they were going to tie it into that. Like this was his team. I don't know. They didn't. It's a soccer team.
Oh, that's cheesy.
Yeah, it sure is. So while this is all going on, Valentina turns Bob into the Sentry, who is the Golden Guardian, I think they called him at one point. And he's all powerful. He wears all yellow and all this other, all this other shit. He's super powerful. He's a sight to behold, right? Like when you first meet him, he looks really good. He looks straight from the comics. It's really cool looking. When the first time he's in the Sentry costume, you're like, oh shit, that's pretty badass. Like it really, is one of those like moments in the comic book movies where you're like, oh damn, it's about to get real. It feels
Yeah.
though they did a really good job with it. So now the Thunderbolts have to stop him because he goes rogue, and we learn that he's also the villain of the movie. He's the Void.
Okay.
So the Void is all black and dark, while the Sentry is all bright and light. So it's like the difference between the two of them. Obviously, they eventually win. They fight the Sentry. Part of the battle is very public in New York City, and everyone sees these guys and Bucky, and everyone's saving the world, and the citizens get behind them and everything else. Part of the fight is inside the Void's mind. This is when it gets, for me, a little goofy and not a great ending battle. It becomes very much a movie about mental health.
Okay. Not expecting that.
Yeah, it very much is like a mental health propaganda film. So the reason they named it Thunderbolts is because Yelena is depressed and unhappy, doesn't feel like any sense of togetherness with anyone, right?
Right.
So that's why they called it the Thunderbolts, to a time when she wasn't depressed and she did feel like she was part of something. Bob, the Sentry, has depression and what appears to be some sort of schizophrenia or a bipolar, and that impacts him. And you start to, as they interact with the other characters, they all kind of tell you a little bit about their dark past that's made them have some sort of mental trauma, right? The way they end this movie, spoiler alert,
they're at a therapy session or something.
They give the Void / Sentry Bob a group hug, and the group hug, like, I'm oversimplifying it. There is a bit of a fight, and they're trying to hold him back, and then they hug him, and they're like, "We're here for you. We're a team." And it's the group hug that like makes him realize he's being accepted, and it calms him down.
Wow. Okay.
That it's a lame duck.
It reminded
ending.
me of the way describing it is Goodwill Hunting, when Williams is like, it's not your fault. It's just,
not your
but
fault.
Instead of one-on-one, it's
the group
therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You're not wrong. It does have that kind of feel. You could also, it's also a little bit like Guardians, where it ends with a dance off.
Wow.
You remember that? Remember how Guardians ended with that dance off, and you're like, this is what you're ending the film on. We're not going to get a big, huge battle, and you're going to give me a hug. You're going to give me a dance off. Is the same feeling. I thought that was the biggest letdown of the movie, was that part.
A lot of change in. I always talk about this change in tone. Is it something when you said it's like, I guess, like a lot of it's about mental health. I'm just curious. Is it like, how was it like executed? Like, I'll just use like the movie like Roger Rabbit, for instance. It's a detective film, basically. It's a comedy, but there's like that that overarching silent like invisible like arc of like, the movie's really more about like racism and segregation, and water. There was a lot of Chinatown influence, that movie Chinatown in there, with like the film industry and the tire industry, and Cloverleaf, and getting rid of the red car. So that movie, obviously, Roger Rabbit's a classic. It's done it really well. Is it kind of like that, very subtle, or is it kind of like, boop? Like, I guess it sounds like it's a bit more on the nose with the.
It's a bit on the. Yeah, it's a bit on the. It's real on the nose. It's real on the nose.
All right.
As you're watching the movie, you're like, all right, well, this is what this is about, and it's fine. It's not a bad thing. It's just the end. You just want there to be a big fight, and they kind of cut the fight short to give you this moment, and it's a bit of a letdown. I mean, overall, look, well, and just real quick to finish the synopsis or the recap. Now we're in the streets of New York. Valentina is there. She turns the situation around and uses this to her advantage, and introduces this team to the world as her new Avengers. And that's the asterisk, and the name of the movie is Thunderbolts with the Star, because now, pre-movie, all of the marketing was about, why is there an asterisk? What's this about? Post-movie coming out, the marketing is all about, it's an Avengers movie. It's the new Avengers. And that's kind of what this is about, right? They're going to be.
That's clever.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Clever.
It's clever. It's not bad at all.
It's clever.
Yeah. So that's the plot of the movie. It's the best Marvel movie, like I said, probably since Endgame.
Wow.
I don't know if that's saying much, because there haven't been any good Marvel movies since Endgame.
No, I think we talked about it in the past. I think which one I liked the first, I'll say half, and was that guy's name? Tai Chi, the 10 Rings.
Shang-Chi.
That's it.
Shang-Chi. Yeah.
That first half hour, or I don't know how long movies, maybe I'll say 2 hours. First hour I enjoyed, and then it fell.
And then it just becomes exactly.
But
they go on some weird journey.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't think of any other movie that I like by Marvel. I don't know if Deadpool. I know you and I were Deadpool
Oh,
3. We didn't love that movie, but anyway. But you're saying this is the best. I
I
guess
think
in
this has
this
been the best one.
universe,
Yeah.
you know.
It felt very connected to an overarching story, which we haven't had in a while, where there's been no
Mhm.
direction in Marvel. And this one feels like they're getting back to that. Like we have a place we want to get to. We have a way to get these characters
Who
together.
who's the big bad guy now? Because they got rid of the Kang Dynasty whole thing.
Big bad guy is going to be probably Doom.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's
Okay.
going to be Doom, and it's going to be the whole multiverse shit. And look, I don't know, but you read comics for long enough, the stories repeat themselves. I assume the Doom that we're going to meet, because it's Robert Downey Jr., is from a different multiverse, right? It's
Yeah.
from, and he's going to come in, and the heroes in our world are going to be like, oh shit, Tony's back. This is amazing. We're going to find out it's Doom, and he's going to be evil, and it's going to be hard for them to fight him because it looks like their friend, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be the plot. And then it'll go from there. He's going to be the biggest villain.
Mhm.
I don't know if I like the idea of him being Doom, but whatever.
So,
Um,
but PJ, with Thunderbolts, quick thing. So, kind of somewhat rapid fire. We'll start with the negatives. What's like the major negatives? I know you went over the plot and everything like that.
Yeah.
But like, what's
Major
like
negative is going to be the end battle, the way they wrap it up.
got it?
I think that is probably for me the biggest negative of the movie. I wanted to see an actual battle.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess for pros, like, are the acting good? Is there any good action sequences, or is this kind of more of a, you know?
There's plenty of action, plenty of comedy. For me, the biggest pro is actually John Walker, the U.S. agent. Wyatt Russell is
Right.
the actor. He was so unlikable on purpose in the Winter Soldier TV show, Cap Winter Soldier TV show, right? And you're like, this guy is a dick. You don't like him. You just can't stand the
Yeah.
character. And what they do in this movie
hmm
is rehabilitate that character. He is still a jerk the way he was in the show,
Yeah.
but directed at they direct the jerkiness to the characters you're supposed to have it directed at, which makes him feel more likable. And he becomes a very good character in this movie. And I'd like to see them do more with him. For me, that's the biggest positive, is with where they could go with the US agent character after this.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of
Nice.
good world building and stuff like
All
that,
right.
and
Okay.
character
Okay.
development.
So PJ, using our cool kids rating system, what would you give this?
All right. So just run through it one last time so everyone knows what the rating is.
hmm
We have chicken nuggets at the top. Then we have pizza. Then we have
Peanut butter and jelly.
PBJ, mystery meat, banana peel. And then the half point is the French fry.
Yep.
I would give this a PB&J and fries. It is above
Oh, okay.
average.
All right.
It's
Fair.
above average. You have to look at the other Marvel movies.
Mhm.
Iron Man 1 is a perfect movie to me. Like, I would give that all the chicken nuggets. I
All right.
can't give this a chicken nugget because it's not as
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's so much better than some of the later movies that have come out that it's above average. Solid peanut PBJ and fries.
Okay. All right. So you would recommend seeing it in
Absolutely.
theaters?
I
Okay.
I would recommend seeing it in theaters. I'd recommend watching it at home when you have a chance to see it a second time to see if you missed anything. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff. The after the credit scenes were both pretty cool. There were two. One was very funny, and one teases what's going to happen in the next couple of movies. I won't spoil the after the credit scenes; those are always the fun parts. But I would definitely say see it. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. And how I always liked, I forgot to ask you, was David Harbour. I think he's such a great actor, that guy.
He's a very good actor.
He can do anything, that guy. He could do
Yeah,
drama, he could do comedy. He's great. I mean, we're big
yeah.
fans of Violent Night. I think he's the best character in Stranger Things. I think his character
hmm
is more to the side now.
Yeah, he's
But he's
great.
great. He's a great
He's a
actor.
great character. He does a really good job in the movie. Yeah, he's exactly what you expect. He's better in this movie than he probably was the last time we saw him in Black Widow, because he's got a little bit more of a meatier role.
Okay. I dig it. Interesting. Okay, cool. So, PJ, I think I will check out Thunderbolts.
Yeah, absolutely check it out. It has you hyped for the next movies. These movies have done in the past. We're always hyping the next movie, and you couldn't wait to see it. We haven't had that in a while. I'm really looking forward to seeing Fantastic Four after seeing this, because I feel like they're back on track.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Good. So I think Mr. Jake Schreier must be happy. He has a
Yeah,
winner.
I rumor is he might be getting an X-Men movie because of the success of
Oh,
this.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So actually, Pete, that's kind of a good segue because I want to talk about some westerns. Because I got somewhat resurged into them because of Val Kilmer's death. I'm like, I never saw Tombstone. Um, I saw it. I loved it. And then I'm like,
Good movie.
yeah, it was great. And then I wanted to see another Western. I finally saw Unforgiven. That's the one with Clint
Okay.
Eastwood that won Best Picture. And then
Yep.
I saw a while back 310 to Yuma, which I think is a remake.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought this was curious. Tombstone, I mean, excuse me, Unforgiven came out in 1992, and then Tombstone was 1993. That's pretty. You
Yeah.
don't get a lot of westerns, and that time you had Dances with
Yeah.
Wolves, so it seems like they had like somewhat of a. Then you had Last of the Mohegans during that time in the
Mm-hmm.
90s, so you did have a lot of that kind of time period, those period pieces for a bit. Um, and Pete, the reason why I'm bringing this up is I was watching these films and I was just saying to myself, this is the blueprint. I mean, obviously we've had Logan, for instance. These things are kind of influenced by that old kind of Western. Jonah Hex,
Yep.
obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the Rawhide Kid? Remember that, PJ?
Yeah.
I
I do
remember
remember the
you and I
Rawhide
were
Kid.
kids, and you were like, "Yo, bro!" I remember you.
Yeah.
That was the comic book folks of a cowboy. I think it was short
Yeah.
lived. I don't think it was a very
Yeah.
long series, but but with these westerns, PJ, I was just saying to myself, I'm like, wow, like they're not like over the top violence. And there's violence in it. It's not anything that's like, it's. I gotta say, when there is violence, it's very impactful, but it's not like gruesome or like
Right.
over the top like a Tarantino or anything that's really nothing like that. But I was watching these, I was like, you could just switch out these characters. I mean, obviously these comic books have been inspired by westerns,
Mm-hmm.
but you can do it. I was just watching like when I was watching Tombstone, I'm like, you can have like the Justice League. You can have, maybe like a very sickly Batman, and he's, Doc Holliday, Val Kilmer's character. He played Batman.
They
But I
played
mean,
Batman. Yeah.
you could pull it off. I mean, like I just feel like you have a blueprint here to work it out, or in Unforgiven, he was like a former, like you can have like the Punisher be Clint Eastwood's character, who's like
Right.
was like the most deadliest guy in the West, vicious, kind of goes to retirement, meets a nice girl, retires, has kids, his wife passes away. He's like, I swears off alcohol, and then gravity brings him back into that world because he's desperate for money. But I'm just saying, like, you could just and look, the reason why people are saying, well, Mike, don't we want original ideas? And I'm talking to you guys and PJ. I'm talking to you as if I was a studio head. Let's say I'm talking even the listeners at home. Let's say Marvel hired you and they go, "We want you to make a Spider-Man movie." And I go, "Why do they want to make Spider-Man?" They're like, "We're paying you. Can you please come up with a Spider-Man movie?" This is what I think I would actually do. That's why I'm bringing these ideas up. I of course like to come up with new ideas, but if Hollywood's going to change things up, they're so adamant about revisiting some of the same things that have been done over and over, the characters and Batman and blah blah blah. This, I think, for me would be a good start. Is just kind of going for a Western approach. And PJ, let me see if you think this is a good idea. Instead of having everything connected and multiverses and making trilogies and these and that's, and just maybe do like the 007 style. I mean, I know that Daniel Craig all were
Right. But
connected,
they're just independent movies.
yeah, and you just have just to make life easy, you just have Ben Affleck just do different,
Mm-hmm.
movies, just him as the same dude, you know? I think you can
Yeah.
pull it off and just do it with the Western, and you already done it with the Westerns. I think you can do it. And I think they would be really impactful because I was watching this, like even like a movie like 310 to Yuma, which is basically you're just taking a prisoner and delivering. He has to catch the train from
Mm-hmm.
310 to Yuma.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
So I mean, like you could just take any superhero that he like they have to transport, you know, it's like Doctor Octopus. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and it's not even Spider-Man has to bring him. It has to be like somebody else, someone like a Daredevil, someone who's not really completely connected.
Right.
I'm just making stuff up here. I'm just coming off the top
Yeah.
of my head.
No, you're right. You could
You could
definitely
just
use
you could just
the
do
formatting of a Western
exactly.
for this.
I mean, it's all
Absolutely.
there. I'm like, why aren't you guys
Yeah.
minding
Well, that's what
this?
George Lucas did with Star Wars, right? Star
Yeah.
Wars is a Western. You could absolutely
Yeah,
do it.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just kind of surprised they haven't really done that. I'm sure like there's a lot of talent in Hollywood. That's why people are like there's no more talent, or I think there is. I think the studios are afraid to take risks, and I think
Mm-hmm.
and the other part is just they want to make they want to just keep it going. Like Marvel at one point we know was like printing money for Disney,
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Yep.
you could do that, by doing a little 007 style, having them just kind of just one-offs. They don't really maybe quasi connect, but not hardcore. I think you can just keep it
Well,
going.
that's what they did back in the day, right? When you look at the old superheroes movies, you had the X-Men franchise, right?
Hmm.
And they were all sequels to each other. But you had the Spider-Man movies, and they were done by a completely different studio, so they didn't connect.
Yeah.
and you almost felt like you could have more freedom to tell the story of that character
Yeah.
because you didn't have to figure out a way to connect somebody else to it. And there's something to be said for that. People love the idea of the interconnectivity and all these universes, the shared universe stuff, and it is cool. Even Marvel, though, in the very beginning, there was a little tease in each movie. But they didn't overly connect until you get
Yeah.
to the Avengers, and I think
Yeah.
that's the way to go. Keep them a little more separate. Give the writers and the directors some creativity and freedom to do what they want in their own movies, and then bring them together later on. That's
Yeah. I wrote in my notes too for folks. Just a really good example of like a Western done like in a comic book style is during the old school Batman animated series. There is a whole episode dedicated
yeah,
to just
yep,
Jonah Hex, and it's
yeah,
just I forgot how it starts. I think Batman or Robin arrests someone, a villain, and then that villain tells the story. And that's how it
right,
ends. So
yeah.
Batman and Robin not even in it. It's the whole thing is
Thing is about Jonah,
and
yeah,
maybe the last
yep,
minute they come back to
yeah,
present time. But it's a great episode.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that was, I'm not. Did they ever make a Jonah Hex film? I think they
They
did.
did,
Yeah,
yeah. Josh Brolin was Jonah
yeah,
Hex.
that was it. Yeah,
Yep,
wow.
yeah.
Obviously, I
He
think
went
it
on
did
to
well.
bigger and better things.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it did well.
yeah.
But anyway, folks, I really highly recommend though. Obviously, Unforgiven won Best Picture. I've got to see what else movies were nominated that year. I'm just curious what else it beat. But it was a really good movie. Morgan Freeman's in it, Clint Eastwood. It's
Hmm.
really good. It's like one of those movies when I think that's what's really good about the westerns too. All these films, it's like when a character dies, like you just hate them. Like you're like, oh, I hope they get what they deserve, kind of thing. And I
Hmm.
think you really haven't had that with the all comic film movies. That there's not many, like death scenes. You don't really see them getting the butt
Because
kicked
they
in,
want to bring the characters back is really what happens.
and
You
then
don't want to
just
kill off a
lose.
villain because
Yeah,
if you kill off the villain, you can't do a team up villain movie later on where the hero has to fight 10 people.
yeah,
That's why they don't do it. It's the same thing in the comics. They never kill off the characters for that long because
mhm.
they need to reuse them again. And in comics it works because that's going to go on forever, right? But
Yeah.
in the
But movies
movies
doesn't.
it would
Yeah,
be more impactful
yeah,
and
and
you
you
would
got to
think they would
reboot it
do that.
anyway. So what's the big? It's
Exactly.
not a big deal.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think the Thunderbolts would have been better served to have a death.
Yeah,
I think if like Red Guardian had been killed in this movie, that would have been such a powerful moment to bring the team together. Sort of like how Coulson died in the first Avengers, and that's what brought the Avengers together,
yeah,
right? Because this whole movie is about these guys don't want to really be a team, and he's the only one trying to make him a team. And had he died in battle and the rest of the team comes together, because it brings to a moment in the film where the audience is impacted by it because a beloved character dies, the characters are impacted by it, and I don't know, I agree with you 100%. There should be more stakes in these sort of movies.
yes,
It's
exactly.
based on the comics, but it's not a comic book, so you need to do something different, and a death in a movie is very powerful.
Yeah,
They should be doing it. I
yeah.
agree 100%.
It makes it, yeah, and it makes it just
Yeah.
makes the movie just so much more intense, and you can pull it
Dramatic,
off
yeah.
exactly. So folks, what I'm saying at home, besides gonna be comic books, taking a um inspiration from these films. If you're a fan, obviously, I'm assuming for the folks who are listening to this episode, you're a fan of comic books and those movies. You should check out these movies. You would definitely enjoy it. No question. Tombstone, awesome. Kurt Russell's in there. Um, Val Kilmer. What's the guy who? Oh, Bill Paxton's in it.
Uh-huh.
The guy with that really deep voice. He was the guy in. Oh my God, I saw him actually in the airport one time. He's in Ghost Rider. He plays Nicolas Cage's like
Oh, yeah.
something Elliot, Billy Elliot or some shit.
Sam Elliott.
Sam, there we go.
Yeah.
He's in that. That's a really good film. And Val Kilmer stills a show. Highly recommend that. Unforgiven. It's Morgan Freeman, Clint Eastwood. I mean, Eastwood's. I mean, he's the. I think I always say he's a better director than he is an actor, in my opinion. But he's.
I
Cool.
agree
Yeah,
with that, yeah.
he's always cool in his films. And then 3:10 to Yuma, you have Russell Crowe, who's like basically the villain of the film. He's the one who's getting transported by Christian Bale, so another superhero.
Another
character.
superhero guy.
All these guys, all of them play superheroes. Then you have Ben Foster. He's the one who played Archangel in X-Men 3.
Ah,
So,
shit.
and he plays a real scumbag that you can't stand. He's real slimy in that movie, 3:10 Team Up. That's a really great movie. And that was directed by James Mangold, who did
Who
The
directed
Wolverine
Logan.
and
Yeah.
Logan. Correct. Really good director. One of my favorites. So yeah, I really recommend those three films. So if you like those, of course there's countless westerns, but those three would be really good ones for someone to check out.
Do you have a favorite Western of all time?
That's a good question. That's a really good question, PJ. I actually gotta say, I'm gonna say 3:10 to Yuma. I really like.
Okay.
a
All
lot.
right.
And I do like The Good and the Bad, the Ugly. Maybe because I just love the music so much, it's just so cool,
All right.
It really makes the then with Ennio Morricone. He did like The Mission, which is a great soundtrack. Obviously,
Uh,
I mean countless great ones. I mean the guy's insane,
I'm a big John Wayne fan. I have all the John Wayne box
Oh
sets.
yeah.
So my favorite is Rio Bravo.
Okay, yeah.
Love Rio Bravo. Because that movie has such a great cast. You get John Wayne. It's got Dean Martin, Ricky Nelson's in it.
Isn't that crazy? Like back then, that was like their Avengers. Like you have all these
Yeah.
same dudes in the same film. It's insane.
Yeah. It's crazy. But I like the old John Wayne movies, and that one's one of my favorites. There's something about a Western that's just timeless.
Yeah. It's like
It's the very reason why Back to the Future 3 is my favorite Back to the Future. I love the Western setting.
yeah.
I know no one agrees with me that that's the best one, but it's my favorite of all of them.
Yeah.
I love the train. And I still say they need to make a toy of this train. How is it not happening?
Exactly.
We say it all the time. Why is there no toy of this train?
Ridiculous.
But I love that setting. I love a Western setting. I think it's just
Yeah.
timeless. Everyone can relate to it. Like
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. I don't know why they don't do more stuff in that.
Yeah, I know it
in that
had. I know
vein.
like somewhat of a Western kind of had its like a quasi resurgence when they had Westworld. That was really more like science fiction though.
Yeah.
And there was another one with what was it called? Not Yellowstone. It was Deadwood.
Yeah.
That's it. Deadwood.
Yeah.
Deadwood had that moment in time.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, but I feel like something like this could make a good. It's obviously very highly masculine. And I think people are intrigued by like early America, that literally the Wild West, where like like killing somebody was like okay,
Yeah.
like I understand why you did that.
When I was in Disneyland Paris, everything that had to do with American themed stuff was all Wild West. The hotel I stayed in was a Wild West themed. That's like when these people outside of America think of America, they just think of the Wild West.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It sure does now.
Yeah. Exactly. So folks, yeah, PJ and I are recommending Thunderbolts and these other westerns: Tombstone, Unforgiven, and 310 Yuma. Anything else, Mr. PJ?
No, just really happy to see a Marvel movie back on track. It's I hope that they continue to stay back on track in that Fantastic Four, because Fantastic Four is their next one, and that's in a couple of months. And then I think we go straight into an Avengers movie next year.
Yeah, I believe so.
I don't think there's anything in between Fantastic Four and Avengers Doomsday. So I really hope they keep the momentum up, and there's no, and they just keep rocking and rolling, and there's no dip in quality again.
Yes.
Because Fantastic Four looks like it's going to be a really solid picture. You can't go into an Avengers movie after having two good movies and then have the Avengers be the letdown.
Yeah.
I just hope they keep it up. I don't.
You and I said this in one of our previous episodes. I think I wouldn't want to be James Gunn for Superman. That's a lot of pressure. And then I forgot who's directing the Fantastic Four. That's a lot of pressure.
So much pressure.
That's a lot of pressure. They have.
And then the Russos are coming back for the Avengers next year, so that gives you some hope.
Yeah. Yes. But still, that's a lot of pressure for those. Yeah. Those two guys. That's a lot of pressure. I'm sure they're gonna. I think regardless, those are gonna be well-made movies. Doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna be, hits. Even if Suicide Squad 2 was really great. It didn't get enough love. You know what I mean? So
Suicide Squad 2 is so good. I think that that came out during the pandemic. I wonder if that would have gotten more
right.
Yeah, that would have gotten maybe a little bit more press if it was in the theaters and that.
That's fair. That's fair. Touche.
The same thing really happened with Black Widow, which was maybe not the best movie, but it kind of fell flat because it was on Disney.
I think it also didn't hurt. I mean, what hurt it was
the character was already dead.
Exactly, it was stupid. They should have.
Yeah.
Whatever.
They should have just. They do these things where they don't release movies in order of like timeline order because they don't know they're going to make the movies in time. I get it. Yeah. We should have started the whole MCU with Captain America: The First Avenger. Like that should have been the first. I think the movie, if you watch them in order and timeline order, things make more sense. Like to go back to Captain Marvel in the 90s after we already know everything, like that's the stuff that pisses me off because there was clearly an alien invasion attacking Earth. And then you learn how many years later that the most powerful Avenger existed already and did not come back to help. Like it's that's why you got to do these things in the right order because it doesn't make any sense otherwise.
Right. Well,
Oh, by the way, we have a really powerful Superman-like character that could have ended this in a minute. We just forgot about her.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing?
Like I said, I think a lot of this falls back to the studios. Like you said, it's money's involved, how things, go.
That's the thing that pisses me off the most, by the way, about Marvel. We know that Fury has the little pager that calls Captain Marvel because he uses it in Endgame, which means he had that for the first Avengers movie. And he didn't know things were going to get worse in the first Avengers movie. All he knew was there was a portal over New York City and a giant army of evil aliens that could destroy a city, destroy the world, were attacking. And he doesn't use his little button to call the event. He doesn't know this is not the worst thing that's ever going to happen.
Right.
He doesn't know there's going to be a Thanos how many years later. Why would you not push your magic button to get her there? Because they didn't know about it that when they were writing the movie. But it just makes things make no sense when you add stuff in later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that pissed me off when I was watching when I saw the first Captain Marvel movie, and then I saw how they brought her in with Infinity War, and I'm just like, really, this really ruins the other movies for me. Anyway, that's my soapbox.
Yeah. But yeah, folks, check out these films, and we got more reviews coming up this summer. Okay, same time, same table.
Have a good one.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.